And now, the news. And this week we have the following. Liberty Walk beheads a GTR, Subaru finally does something we like, and Honda sits on its logo. Tokyo Auto Salon was last weekend, and for those who don't know what it is, it's like the Japanese SEMA. It's been around since 1983 and takes place annually in January. You can expect three things if you go to Tokyo Auto Salon: modified cars, hot women, and men who take pictures of the women. And I'm not joking, these women are called booth babes, and they're grown-ass men, probably with wives and children, that go there only to take pictures of them. A car show where instead of getting all hot and sweaty over a modified Carrera GT, you get hot and sweaty over a woman in a miniskirt instead. How much you want to bet these guys go home with a spare SD card of downloaded pictures of cars so that their wives don't see what's on the SD card that they actually used at the event? Anyway, for the rest of us who aren't perverts, who actually go there for the cars and not for the ass prints on them, the Tokyo Auto Salon is a great place to see some of the most talented people show off their hard work over the previous year. It's also a place where manufacturers come to let their hair down a bit. So instead of seeing whatever new EV the marketing department had to Photoshop behind the words exciting, dynamic, and passion, here we get to see what happens when middle management risk their jobs by allowing the designers to actually be creative for once. In recent years, the mood at the show has been a bit subdued, but this year it's back with a bang. Both tuners and manufacturers have put their best foot forward, and the stuff coming out of this weekend has been a mix of phenomenal, loony, and fun. So let's dive in and see what's what. Toyota came out swinging with rumors of a new MR2 debuting. They'd been teasing a mid-engine toy in the build-up, so as the live stream started, all the fanboys were already edging themselves. So what did they do? They released a mid-engined two-seater K-truck. This was all to show off the result of some build-off competition between Daihatsu and Toyota. They straight up trolled all of us. We had a laugh, the Toyota fanboys zipped up their pants in a huff, and nothing about an MR2 was mentioned. And I have to add here, good on a manufacturer for actually having a sense of humor. Because all we get these days is corporate BS, and it's so nice to see someone who's actually willing to just have some fun and mess around with people a bit. Supposedly the car is still coming, if rumors of test mules in the wild can be believed, but yeah, they got us. Things they brought out that were actually serious though were the GR-GT and GR-GT3. Social media was abuzz with the cars speeding up and down outside the event, and they were available to almost reach out and touch during the event too. Lastly, the GR Yaris Morizo RR Special Edition was unveiled. It's limited to 100 units in Japan and another 100 in certain European markets. And I would assume the UK is on that list given that both we and the Japanese drive on the correct side of the road. And this isn't some Ferrari-esque hostage situation where they don't release the car to you unless you've bought 5 other special edition Ferraris and given a blowjob to John Alkin. No, you literally buy a lottery ticket through the GR phone app.
But random, dispassionate fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman.
And the madman I'm referring to is Toyota's CEO, the man who helped develop it at the Nürburgring. And it's not that he just went there and oversaw some testing. No, this man took part in the Nürburgring 24 hours endurance race and then had the team build it out of their learnings from that race. The car is a custom auto gearbox, custom 4-wheel drive and custom suspension setups, all developed exclusively for it. It also has a massive carbon fiber rear wing, custom body panels, and is painted with the boss's favorite color scheme. They even changed the size of the steering wheel and the position of important switches just for this edition. Imagine running a multi-billion-dollar company and being able to use it to effectively build bespoke homologation cars. To be able to say, this switch is badly placed, and the switch moves. You or me, us plebs down here, we don't have the power to drill holes in our rented houses, and this man is changing cars at will. Subaru have also been edging their fans in the build-up to this event, but instead of giving them the finish that MR2 fans were denied, Subaru decided to take it a step further. Put it this way, if Toyota's reveal was the equivalent of the camera switching to a wide shot just as you're about to shoot off, then Subaru's was the equivalent of the camera switching to a picture of your diabetic aunt. They spent who knows how long talking up a new STI, and when it came to the reveal, what did we get? A so-called STI with the same power and equipment levels as a standard WRX, painted in blue to try and fool us. Okay, fine, the car has a manual gearbox and some tweaked suspension, and some mildly different body parts. But after all the noise, this was a giant letdown. The only saving grace for this car is that it's available in limited numbers and only in Japan, so it's unlikely we'll ever get disappointed by it in real life. Moving on, Nissan brought a slightly revised Z to the show, and for those who say it's not very exciting, you're right. The most notable change is the front bumper, with little tweaks made elsewhere too. These changes are set to be released on the 2027 model year. They also debuted the Aura Nismo RS concept. A notable departure from the standard Note Aura, this car is barely recognizable as part of the family. It's been lowered and widened and given this insane body kit. It now also sports 2 electric motors, giving the car 4-wheel drive and a combined output of over 330 horsepower. But just in case you're worried about range, a 1.5-litre engine acting purely as a backup generator makes this the latest vehicle to follow the trend of range-extending EVs. It's just a concept for now, but Nissan is considering a production version, and if that happens, we'll be seeing motorsport applications alongside the production vehicle too. Honda showed off a whole bunch of concept performance variants, putting the HRC or Honda Racing Corporation name squarely in the spotlight again. We had the Civic Type R HRC concept, the Prelude HRC concept, the CR-V Trail Sport HRC concept, the ZR-V Trail Sport HRC concept, the Vezel Trail Sport HRC concept, and the WR-V Trail Sport HRC concept. I think somebody really liked the words Trail Sport and HRC concept. If you're wondering what Trail Sport means, it's a trim level that's handled by Honda's new off-road vehicle production line. On-road models will fall under the Sport line production line. While the on-road vehicles look interesting enough, the off-road concepts look like they've just raided an off-road center as well as Hyundai's N Division paint shop. Hopefully once we learn more details about these cars, we'll have something to get excited over. Last on this list is Mitsubishi. With Renault seemingly building all their production vehicles going forward, they had some time to let their hair down. They introduced 11 custom Delica models, in their words to highlight the strength and versatility of the car. The Delica is a light commercial vehicle, so in other words van, and has a K-car sibling, the Delica Mini. This was a light-hearted display and was well needed after the disappointment of the MR2 and the STI. At least with Mitsubishi, our expectations were low from the start. This does segue us nicely into the K-cars and the modified part of the show, because tuners were out in force and they weren't just aiming at the big things. Yes, there were cars like the triple turbo, triple rotor RX-7, but you know what's more fun than that? A Skyline K-car. That's right, famous body kit designers Rocket Bunny took a Suzuki Twin and modified it to look like a squashed R32 Skyline GTR. The build is said to have taken 2 weeks, which is just mental, and currently it's a one-off, although they plan on eventually selling a kit to allow you to build your own adorable Skyline in the future. Another notable K car on display was a Honda S660. While it's known for being a shrunk-down version of the new NSX already, this wasn't good enough for Wanda, a car repair and modifying company. They instead converted one of these cars into the classic 90s Honda NSX. It looks awesome, especially with the classic pop-up headlights. For anyone interested, I'll link to the Instagram below where they put up a video of the build. Next on the list we have a Daihatsu Copen, one of the few K cars that escaped Japan back in the day. Except this isn't a Daihatsu Copen anymore, it's a Nissan GTR. Liberty Walk, famous for their wild bulls, not only built a convertible Nissan GTR that I'll get to shortly, but as a side piece recreated their build using a Daihatsu Copen. The great part is they also sell it as a kit, so with a Copen in the UK setting you back between $1.5 and $3 for the low price of $10 excluding shipping and delivery, you could have your own little adorable GTR. Absolute steal. Okay, last two before we move on to the big boys. Another Copen making the list here, this time in the guise of a Toyota Supra, but with the styling of a Mark IV Supra from the first Fast and Furious movie. Really cool. And lastly, this Mazda Autozam AZ1, with a wide body kit so wide it's probably classed as a regular car now. Absolute madness and what we love to see at these kinds of events. As promised, we're going to start with that Liberty Walk GTR. Now I called it a convertible earlier, but that's not strictly true, as it doesn't actually have a hard or soft top. What you see is what you get. And while some people might call it heresy to convert such a purpose-built track monster into something that the girls take out on weekends, we need to remember this is Liberty Walk. Nothing is sacred to these people, as you'll see shortly. But it also raises a question as to whether Nissan missed an opportunity here. A Porsche 911 Turbo is also a purpose-built machine, and yet they offer a drop top. Imagine the sales if Nissan had stopped focusing on the Nürburgring for 2 seconds and developed something like this as well. Alternatively, they could have gone down the Targa route a la 300ZX. So many missed opportunities here. Nevertheless, this is super cool, and the Fast and Furious tribute livery looks insane on it. On the topic of heresy, they also brought a heavily modified Lamborghini Miura, proving that no car is safe in Japan. Granted, this car debuted a year ago, so to those familiar with their work, it's nothing new. It was used to advertise their Liberty Walk Kids clothing line, with people encouraged to sign the car. Ferruccio Lamborghini must be spinning in his grave right now. They also showed off a few other cars with wild body kits, including a 180SX, an R34 Skyline, and a Camaro. Which moves us nicely onto the topic of America, because there were indeed a few American cars around, and they were sporting some insane paint jobs. First up is the Cadillac Escalade Fang Armor by Rowan. Absolutely mental paint job that must have taken ages. Usually Rowan only work on Japanese car, but paint doesn't care about country and they put it to good use here. This car would have killed in the background of 2000s rap videos for sure. And right next to this mad Escalade is a Dodge Challenger. Different colors, same level of mind-blowing paintwork. I may know nothing about paintwork, but even still, I'm at a complete loss as to how it's possible to even create something like this. What I do know is if this was mine, you could drain the fluids right now, because while I firmly believe cars exist to be driven, art pieces like this should only ever be displayed. Toyota's 86 had a lot of coverage at the event. We had an off-road variant in the same vein as a Porsche 911 Dakar, one built by Veilside in collaboration with Sung Kang from the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift movie, and lastly, a first-gen 86 built by Result Japan. This one is designed to look like the Toyota AE86 from Initial D, and this conversion kit is actually available to buy for around $5,500. Roberta bucked the trend of Japanese tuner cars and rocked up with a Ferrari F40, sporting an F40 LM-inspired body kit. And if that wasn't enough, it was sandwiched between two white Porsche Carrera GTs. And then lastly, to end this off, a car that both impresses me and makes me want to vomit at the same time. The Lamborghini Diablo Beast by Value Progress. The dedication and the level of detail is insane. To be able to put this much everything on a car is impressive. But dear God, it's ugly. It's one thing to modify a car. It's another thing to take a classic supercar and modify it. But it's entirely something else to go to this degree to ruin it. These people were so worried about whether they could that they didn't stop to think about whether they should. Every single angle gets worse than the last. From the 15,000 headlights to the 1 billion grills, everything about this car screams jail time. It looks like the result of a 10-year-old boy who learned Photoshop. But instead of his parents redirecting his attention to porn, like the rest of us, they made this ungodly, abhorrent, demonic creation come to life. The amount of goat's blood you need to perform this satanic ritual to spawn this monstrosity must have surely set some kind of world record. If Ferruccio Lamborghini was spinning in his grave over the Miura, I think his corpse might get reanimated because of this, if only so he can drag it back to hell himself. The Detroit Auto Show kicked off this week. It'll run through to the 25th of January and feature many cars or car-adjacent things. Things like Cadillac's 2026 Canal Boat and puppies. Yes, you heard that right. There will be puppies at the Detroit Auto Show. Fresh from telling their fanboys at the Tokyo Auto Salon that we have STI at home, Subaru have come up with a heartwarming initiative in Detroit, getting puppies adopted. They've teamed up with the Michigan Humane Society to bring shelter puppies into the showroom. The initiative is called Subaru Loves Pets and will allow people to sign adoption papers on site. And for those not of a doggy disposition, there will be kittens available as well. So if you're headed to the show and also looking for an adorable companion, make sure to be at the booth between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Owning a Ford in Europe just got a lot cheaper. They've hung up their parts in the shooting range and shot 25% of the price off for them. Yes, you heard that right. If you own a Ford and you live in Europe, you'll be getting your parts for 25% less from January onwards. This is part of an initiative by Ford to keep older vehicles running for longer and will affect 6,000 unique parts across 35 different models up to the 2019 model year. The exact parts haven't been announced yet, but they say it'll include commonly damaged parts like bumpers, fenders, doors, and lights. It's unsure whether this will extend to mechanical components or not just yet, but rest assured that when that handbrake turn doesn't go according to plan, you'll break the bank that little bit less on repairs. It's understood that some of the models affected by this are the Fiesta, the Focus, the Mondeo, the C-Max, the Cougar, and the Ranger. What would be interesting to see is if insurance goes down on these vehicles too, because surely if parts are cheaper to repair or replace, then they should be cheaper to insure as well, right? Ford's other motive for this is to strengthen the resale value of its cars. Obviously they don't gain anything from the second-hand car sales, but a car running for an extra 5 years does need parts, which will benefit them in a more passive way. I have to say, it's nice to see a change that benefits both the consumer and the manufacturer. It just shows that there are ways in which both sides of a transaction can win. It'd be great if we could see this become a trend among manufacturers. Let them compete to see who can keep the second-hand market the happiest. We get lower repair costs, they get more part sales, everyone gets a warm fuzzy feeling. For balance though, I am going to make another point. I don't know what the cost of these parts are currently, but I would imagine being OEM, they're on the high end. This might not be them just being nice. I mean, when do companies, especially large American companies, care about the consumer? It could very well be that they're seeing sales of these parts drop because people are going to third-party parts producers instead of the OEM. So to combat this, they announce a massive price drop, which places their parts still above the third parties, but close enough that people will think, well, if it's only a little bit more, then I'd rather get the OEM part. Something to think about. Honda has gotten with the times and updated its logo. And when I say gotten with the times, I mean remove most of the design, so that a baboon drawing with its feet could still get it right. This logo, likely taken from the font of a children's television show, has been reinforced with a lot of marketing BS from the company itself. And yes, you're gonna hear it. They say the new logo's outward tilting arms represent two outstretched hands to serve the needs of customers. The only person who thinks these look like hands is Seamus from Family Guy. Hell, it looks like somebody pushed two benches together. They've also dropped the ring around it, and while the press release doesn't cover this, it's no doubt another nod to being sincere towards customers. Now look, for balance, it is fair to say that this harks back to the Honda logo of the 60s. But when their own press material makes no reference to that design, I feel like we're within our rights to ignore it too. And on the press material, here we have the real kicker, the meat of the marketing. The marketing is so markety that I'm going to have to put a counter on screen to count the number of marketings in this marketing. There's so much marketing going on that Exhibit is trying to put it in a car. Okay, here we go with their quote. The new H mark will represent the second founding, which Honda is pursuing with strong determination to lead the way during this period of transformation by offering new value that goes beyond customer expectations with cutting-edge technology and ideas without being bound by conventional ideas, practices, and ways of doing things. I would like to point out that's the first time I've gotten that right in about 5 attempts because I kept not breathing in enough because the sentence was too long and because I probably had a stroke halfway through it because dear God, that is a lot of marketing nonsense.
Stroke! Stop mocking me!
Imagine being the poor idiot who had to come up with this. Imagine your job for the day is to market a logo that looks like it got sat on. It's no wonder Japan's birth rate is at an all-time low, because if I know my kids are going to have to do a job remotely as boring as this while getting underpaid and overworked, I think I'll just save them the pain and not have them in the first place. So you're welcome, non-kids of mine in the future. Daddy saved you from jumping off a bridge at 25 because of the second coming of Honda Christ. And now for this week's edition of It Just Slipped Out, where we look at the recalls that happened in this past week. Ford have proven they're way ahead of the game once again. With Hyundai showing off their grenade airbags last week, Ford have taken it a step further with their C4 airbags. Ford Ranger models produced between 1998 and 2002 are affected and require a recall. The airbags fitted to these vehicles have a chemical substance in them that may deteriorate over time in warm, humid climates. This means if you have an accident in said warm, humid climate, the airbags could rupture with too much force, causing serious or even fatal injuries. Given the US history with bombing, I'm not completely sure this is a fault, rather a feature. Nevertheless, the EU disagrees, so if you're in the EU and have a Ranger, take it down to your nearest Ford bomb squad for safe disarming. One thing you don't expect from a Bentley is for it to light a fire under you. No, these vehicles are made for high-end luxury and looking down on the peasantry. Well, the peasantry's pitchfork and torch mentality appears to have caught up with aristocracy, because Bentegas are starting to resemble witches in the 18th century. Bentayga hybrid models produced from March to November of 2023 are starting to spontaneously combust. There's an issue with the battery's cell modules, causing them to potentially overheat during charging, running the risk of fire. And if you have one of these vehicles, please then return it to Bentley. They have the holy water and Bibles ready to cleanse your car of its witchy tendencies. And that is the end of the news.